It's time to connect to Congress, a segment where we talk directly to Washington lawmakers who represent us here in the central San Joaquin Valley. And joining us this morning, we're talking live with Democratic Representative from the 21st Congressional District, Jim Costa. Good morning, Congressman Costa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Liz, and I always say it's great to be on a great day. Thank you.
Indeed. Long time no see since I just saw you a couple of days ago at the honor flight. We're going to start day 15, government shutdown. Do you see an end in sight?
Well, unfortunately, I don't at this point in time. The longest shutdown period we ever had was during the first Trump administration. It lasted 35 days. And Speaker Johnson yesterday indicated that he had no intention of bringing the House back into session. For clarity purposes, the House is not in session at this time. The Senate is. The votes that have been taking place here in the last 2 weeks have been on the Senate side of the House, of the Congress. And we're urging Speaker Johnson, which is why we've come back every week, to bring the House back into session so we can sit down and negotiate it. It's just not responsible to shut down government. It's not good for the American economy. It's not good for the American people. And the world is watching, wondering, what's going on here. And this is only a proposed continuing resolution to keep government funded until November 21st. We still have to have a budget before the end of the year. And a budget, as it always is a series of compromises between Republicans and Democrats, different regions of the country. And, part of what's at stake here is when I support a budget, and I have over the years, I work very hard to get our taxpayer dollars back here in the Valley for infrastructure, for water transportation, for health care and education. 750,000 federal workers now are being furloughed, 4,000 were fired, and over 6,000 in my district that perform critical essential services like air traffic control, meat inspectors, our national parks, and it's just not right for expecting them to go to work. Majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck with no end in sight.
And while they're not working, there are businesses that also depend on their money as well to see them as customers. How do you see this eventually getting resolved?
It gets resolved, in my opinion, having been through these before. As I said, under the first Trump administration, it was 35 days by the parties. Guess what? Doing what we're supposed to do: sit down, talk, and work out a compromise. That's the nature of democracy, and it has been for 249 years. And why the Speaker is unwilling to call the House back into session, as we've come back every week, and indicating that this could go into mid-November is not a positive sign. Because we have our differences, to be sure. But the Affordable Health Care Act that I worked so hard in 2010 to pass provides much needed tax credits for, in my district, over 26,000 constituents who it's their primary source of health care. And notices are going out as we speak that their health care costs will increase 200% to 300%. That's a family earning $64,000 a year means their premiums could go over 600% to over $2,500. That's not fair. Our health care is most essential to all Americans.
I think a lot of people at home may be wondering, Congressman Costa, is that, again, these subsidies will be expiring. Why do things always have to come down to the wire when it comes to issues out of Washington? And should this not have been resolved or extended long before?
Yes, it should have. And we've raised this issue from the beginning of this year when there was the first continuing resolution passed in late spring. And we said, look at, our tax credits for the Affordable Health Care Act are expiring at the end of the year. Let's make those Americans, 26 million of them, rest assured that they'll be able to continue to have their health care. And it went unheard of. And then they said, well, we'll talk about it once we agree to this continuing resolution. Well, the problem in part is that no one, the trust factor is so limited these days in Washington that no one trusts that that's going to take place. Plus the notion, as I said, the president's desire, once we pass a budget, to then reward and punish members of Congress based upon whether or not he thinks that money should be spent. The power of the purse is clear in the Constitution held by the Congress. We appropriate and we pass a budget, and we do that for the purposes of our spending priorities. Regardless of what the administration is, they don't have the unilateral ability then to choose as to what the Congress passes, what they'll spend money on, and what they won't spend money on. That's why we have a Congress, checks and balances.
Is that broken promise, if you will, of bringing up this discussion later? Is that what is making so many people, at least on the Democratic side, so apprehensive of going along with this continuing resolution? Because they're saying, okay, pass this and then we can talk about that.
Yes, the trust factor is sadly not there, and that needs to be corrected. You know, I have a reputation of working over the years on a bipartisan basis, and I'm continuing to reach out to my Republican colleagues. And there are a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes and on how we bridge the gap and how we bring this to an end and reopen government and then work on the budget before the end of the year. Those are the priorities that we must put in place. But let me just finally say that the budget process is broken, and it has been broken for, I don't know, 10 years or so. And we need to fix that. But first, we've got to reopen government. We have to pass a budget before the end of this year, and then we ought to talk about how we fix this broken budget process system that's been existing here for, regardless of who's in the majority, for too many years.
Lawmakers need to work together one way or another. Congressman Costa, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this morning. Great day. We'll be right back.